The mare was on the verge of giving birth under the watchful eyes of everyone gathered. Yet, just as the moment of birth arrived and they caught sight of what had been born, the ranch owner gasped in astonishment. "I can't believe it!" "Two? Are you certain, Doctor?" Henry's voice, usually steady and commanding as the head of the ranch, wavered in the small room where the veterinarian studied Rosie's X-rays. His weathered hands trembled slightly, and his thick mustache quivered as if unwilling to accept the weight of the news. "Yes, Henry," the vet replied solemnly, his tone leaving no room for doubt. "It's exceedingly rare, but here's the proof. Rosie is carrying twins." The air in the room thickened with silence, stretching unbearably as everyone absorbed the revelation. Rosie wasn't just any horse. She was the heart of the ranch, almost a member of the family. What might have been joyful news under different circumstances now carried an unsettling gravity. "There's an issue," the veterinarian continued, adjusting his glasses with a practiced motion. "The survival rate in cases like this is extraordinarily low, about 1 in 10,000. The likelihood of both foals being born healthy and Rosie coming through unscathed is nearly non-existent. My professional recommendation is to terminate one of the embryos. It's the safest course for Rosie." Henry closed his eyes, exhaling a deep, heavy sigh. In his life, he'd made countless hard choices, but this one felt uniquely crushing. "No, we can't do that." The sudden outburst came from Ellie, Henry's youngest daughter. At just 20, her bond with Rosie was as unshakable as the oak trees lining the ranch. Since childhood, Ellie had spent hours brushing Rosie's mane, whispering secrets to her as though the mare were a trusted confidant. Her hazel eyes welled with tears as she turned to face her father. "She's strong, Papa. You know she is. If she got through last year's difficult birth, she can get through this too." "Ellie, this isn't about strength," Henry said, his voice strained but measured. "It's about minimizing risk. We can't gamble with Rosie's life." "But shouldn't we trust her? Trust her instincts as a mother? Doesn't she at least deserve the chance to try?" Ellie's arms crossed defiantly, her resolve clear in every line of her posture. The veterinarian watched the exchange silently, understanding the family's turmoil all too well. He had seen similar conflicts before, knowing that no decision would come without heartbreak. Over the following days, tension gripped the ranch. Arguments flared and simmered, punctuated by long, uncomfortable silences. Ellie spent even more time in Rosie's stall, gently stroking her velvety nose and speaking in soft, soothing tones. "Don't worry, girl. I'll fight for you, just like you've always protected me." Meanwhile, Henry sought second and third opinions, consulting experts and fellow veterinarians. Yet every response was the same. Carrying twins posed an almost insurmountable risk for Rosie. Even so, Ellie's unwavering determination began to weigh on her father's heart. One night, gazing up at the wide expanse of stars, he found himself thinking, maybe, just maybe, Rosie can do this. After days of heated debates and long family meetings, a decision was finally reached. "We'll trust Rosie," Henry announced, his voice steady but laced with an undercurrent of uncertainty. "But the moment it becomes clear her life is in danger, we act." The veterinarian nodded reluctantly. "Then we'll need to monitor her closely. Every day will matter." Ellie's face lit up for the first time in weeks as she embraced her father tightly. "Thank you, Papa. I promise you won't regret this." And so began a chapter of cautious hope and profound uncertainty. Life on the ranch shifted. Rosie became the center of everyone's attention. The family worked tirelessly to ensure she received the best care possible. The first sign of trouble came with the dawn of an unseasonably warm morning. Rosie, who typically greeted Ellie with a cheerful nicker when she arrived with fresh alfalfa, stood still, her head low and ears pinned back. Alarmed, Ellie set the bucket down near the stable door and approached slowly, her heart pounding with unease. "Rosie, what's wrong, sweet girl?" Ellie whispered, gently stroking the mare's neck. Rosie didn't respond as she usually did. Instead, she let out a long, weary sigh, almost as if she were too tired to do anything else. From the shade of a nearby tree, Henry observed with a serious expression, his arms crossed. "Ellie, call the vet. Right now." The vet and his assistant arrived promptly and began examining Rosie with practiced efficiency. Concerned murmurs filled the air as Ellie held the reins tightly, trying to calm both the horse and her own racing heart. "She's exhausted," the vet explained, glancing up at Henry. "The weight of the twins is beginning to take a toll on her. We'll need to adjust her diet and drastically reduce her activity. Things are going to get even more challenging from here." The following weeks were a relentless uphill battle. Rosie started showing signs of persistent fatigue, and her appetite dwindled day by day. Ellie spent hours by her side, speaking softly and encouragingly, coaxing her to eat just a little more. "Come on, Rosie, just one more bite. Do it for your babies," she pleaded, holding a handful of alfalfa near the mare's nose. The vet imposed a strict care regimen. Rosie's diet was enhanced with specialized supplements, and her stable was meticulously prepared to minimize any chance of mishaps. Even her time outdoors was limited to short walks under constant supervision. Yet, despite all these precautions, worry hung over the ranch like a storm cloud. Late at night, whispers filled the kitchen as Henry and his wife, Margaret, spoke in hushed tones. "What if we're wrong, Henry? What if this ends badly for Rosie?" Margaret's voice trembled. "We have to trust that we're doing the right thing," Henry replied, though the unease in his eyes betrayed his uncertainty. The accident happened on a Friday afternoon. Ellie had taken Rosie for a brief walk behind the barn, where the mare seemed to relish the gentle breeze. Everything was going fine until a rabbit darted out from the bushes, startling Rosie. The mare took a step back, slipping in a muddy patch. The sound of her hooves losing traction made Ellie's heart stop. "Dad! Rosie!" she screamed. The mare fell heavily onto her side. She struggled to get up, but the weight of her swollen belly made it nearly impossible. Henry and the vet rushed over as Ellie knelt by Rosie, stroking her forehead in desperation. "It's okay, Rosie. You're okay. Just stay calm," she repeated, her voice breaking as tears threatened to spill. The vet carefully examined Rosie, his hands gently pressing her abdomen. His furrowed brow and worried expression spoke volumes. "This isn't good. There could be internal damage. We'll need to monitor her closely over the next few hours." That night, tension gripped the ranch. Rosie was brought back to the stable, and the family took turns keeping watch over her. Every movement, every sound set their nerves on edge. Ellie stayed awake until dawn, sitting beside Rosie with the mare's head resting on her lap. She stroked her gently, whispering, "Don't give up, Rosie. You're stronger than this." At sunrise, the vet returned for another examination. After a long pause, he finally sighed with relief. "It looks like there's no serious damage," he announced. "But this is a warning. We can't afford another incident like this." The days that followed were filled with quiet introspection around the ranch. Even Ellie, usually so hopeful, began to wonder if they had made the right choice. Discussions grew more heated in the house, with Henry and Margaret debating the risks. "What if this only gets worse?" Margaret asked one evening, setting steaming cups of coffee on the table. "If it were up to me, I wouldn't have allowed this pregnancy in the first place," Henry said, his voice heavy with exhaustion. Ellie, standing silently in the doorway, clenched her fists. "Rosie can do this," she said firmly. "I know it. And deep down, I know you all know it too. You're just afraid." Ellie's words hung in the air, suspended like a fragile promise. No one responded, but the silence was deafening. Shortly after breakfast, the veterinarian arrived, his bag in hand, containing the ultrasound equipment needed to check on the foals. Ellie stayed by Rosie's side, never leaving her for even a moment as the vet worked. "The good news is that both foals are still alive," he said after a few tense minutes, offering a small but genuine smile. "However, one of them is noticeably weaker. It's critical. We monitor their progress every week." Ellie let out a sigh of relief, her chest loosening slightly. "You hear that, Rosie? Your babies are still fighting with you." Henry stood quietly in the corner of the barn, arms crossed, his face stoic. Though he said nothing, a faint spark of hope began to flicker within him. The following days became an exercise in constant care and unwavering patience. Rosie no longer ventured outside the barn. The long, peaceful walks she once enjoyed had become a thing of the past. To make up for it, Ellie added little touches to brighten Rosie's space. Wildflowers picked during the crisp morning hours, a soft but worn blanket spread out for Rosie to rest more comfortably. The daily rhythm of life on the ranch revolved around the mare's needs. Henry and the ranch hands managed the routine chores, while Ellie and her mother dedicated themselves to Rosie's care. The work was exhausting, but even the smallest signs of improvement brought flickers of hope. "She's eating more," Ellie remarked one day as Rosie nibbled slowly on a handful of fresh alfalfa. "That's a positive sign, isn't it?" "It's a good start," the veterinarian replied, his tone measured. "But there's still a long road ahead." One warm afternoon, as Ellie cleaned the barn, Rosie's demeanor suddenly shifted. She lifted her head, her ears twitching, and let out a soft whinny, staring intently toward the entrance. Ellie stopped what she was doing and walked over. "What is it, Rosie?" At the doorway stood Henry, holding a small bucket of apples. "I thought she might like these," he said, setting the bucket down gently. Ellie glanced at him in surprise, but didn't say a word. Instead, she picked up an apple and held it out to Rosie, who eagerly took a bite. In the days that followed, Rosie began to show signs of recovery. While her movements were still cautious, her appetite had improved, and her once dull coat had regained a healthy sheen. The weekly veterinary checkups confirmed the foals were stable, their growth on track. Henry began spending more time in the barn, quietly observing Ellie and Rosie. Though not a man of many words, his actions spoke volumes. He repaired the barn door, which had begun to sag, and reinforced the roof to ensure Rosie would stay dry during the sudden summer rains. One morning, the air felt heavy, charged with an almost electric tension. Ellie noticed it first. Rosie's behavior was unusual. Her breathing was deeper, her movements restless. Instinctively, Ellie knew the time had come. "Dad, it's happening," she said, bursting into the kitchen where Henry sat sipping his coffee. He looked up, his expression serious, and without a word set his cup down and headed to the barn. He understood there was no time to waste. The veterinarian arrived soon after, accompanied by his assistant, both laden with the necessary equipment. Ellie watched every movement intently, her heart pounding as Rosie circled the barn restlessly, searching for a comfortable position. "It's starting," the veterinarian announced, his voice steady but firm. "We'll need space and silence. This won't be quick." The barn became a place of absolute focus. Henry, Ellie, and the ranch hands stayed close, ready to assist if needed, but careful not to interfere. Minutes stretched into hours, each one heavy with tension. Rosie groaned in pain, her hind legs trembling with the effort. Ellie couldn't tear her eyes away, her hands clenched tightly, trying to hold back tears. "Come on, Rosie," she whispered softly. "You can do this. I know you can." The veterinarian issued clear instructions to his assistant, who prepared a small emergency kit with calm efficiency. The atmosphere was thick with anticipation, every sound and movement amplifying the stakes of the moment. "The first foal is in position," the vet finally announced, breaking the tense silence. Rosie's effort was monumental, her muscles contracting fiercely as her labored breathing filled the stable. Each anguished sound felt like a knife twisting in Ellie's chest, a haunting echo of the mare's struggle. Finally, a faint but unmistakable sound broke through, the soft, tentative whinny of new life. The first foal had arrived. The veterinarian worked quickly, gently cleaning the tiny colt before laying him close to Rosie. "It's a boy," he said with a small smile. Ellie exhaled deeply, as if she had been holding her breath for hours. Henry stepped forward, his eyes reflecting a mix of amazement and relief as he gazed at the fragile creature. But the ordeal was far from over. Straightening up, the vet cast a concerned glance at Rosie. "The second one is on its way. This one will be harder." Time seemed to slow as Rosie continued her battle, her body visibly drained, yet her eyes burned with an indomitable strength that no one could ignore. Ellie leaned in closer, stroking Rosie's neck with trembling hands. "Rosie, just a little more. You're incredible. We're right here with you," she murmured, her voice cracking under the weight of her emotion. The vet and his assistant moved with careful precision, ensuring the second foal was properly positioned. The air in the stable was thick with anticipation, every sound amplified by the stillness. And then it happened. A second, tiny miracle entered the world. Relief swept through the room. This foal was smaller, more delicate, but alive. The veterinarian cleaned her gently and placed her beside Rosie, who, despite her exhaustion, nuzzled the newborn with the utmost tenderness. "It's a girl," the vet said, his smile now broader. Ellie let out a sob, overwhelmed by the storm of emotions that coursed through her. "Silver and Willow," she said softly, looking at the two foals as they wobbled on unsteady legs. "That's what we'll call them, for the strength and grace Rosie has shown us." The stable, once heavy with tension and worry, now brimmed with life and hope. The tiny foals leaned into Rosie, who watched them with a mix of weariness and pride. Henry approached Ellie and rested a hand on her shoulder. "They made it," he said quietly, his voice warm in a way she hadn't heard in years. Ellie nodded, her tear-streaked face glowing with gratitude. They made it, she thought, because they never gave up, and because neither did we. Caring for Rosie and the foals quickly became the heart of the family's daily routine. Ellie oversaw Rosie's meals, ensuring the mare had the perfect balance of nutrients to produce enough milk, while Henry fortified the stable. "I want everything to be perfect for them," he said, hammering a loose plank back into place. "Nothing and no one will disturb them." Even the ranch hands, initially skeptical of the entire situation, grew invested. One of them, a young man named Logan, began keeping meticulous notes on the foal's behaviors in a notebook, treating it like a science project. "Silver's going to be a fast one," Henry remarked one day. "I've seen him trot without a single stumble." "And Willow will be the clever one," Ellie added, gently stroking the filly's silky mane. "She watches everything, like she's trying to figure the world out. The peaceful rhythm of the ranch was unexpectedly disrupted when a photo of Silver and Willow, snapped by Ellie and shared on social media, went viral. Within days, Rosie and her twin foals became a national sensation, their story spreading across local and national news outlets. "Look at this," Ellie exclaimed one morning, holding her phone up to Henry. "They're calling it a miracle. They're saying Rosie is a symbol of resilience and hope." Henry frowned slightly, his discomfort with the sudden attention evident. "I don't want this to turn into a circus," he muttered, his protective instincts kicking in. Rosie craved peace. No cameras, no strangers. But the reality was that her story had already captured the hearts of many. Messages of support and congratulations flooded social media, and it wasn't long before the first visitors arrived at the ranch, eager to see the foals. "Welcome," Henry said, his voice warm yet firm as he led a small group toward the stable. "You can look, but no flashes or loud noises. Rosie still needs her rest." Among the visitors, one group stood out in particular. They were scientists and veterinarians, intrigued by Rosie's unique situation. Armed with folders full of notes and advanced observation equipment, they were fascinated by the rare occurrence of twin pregnancies in horses. "This case could revolutionize what we know about equine reproduction," one researcher explained to Henry, her excitement palpable. "Rosie has defied the odds, and we want to understand how she did it." Though hesitant at first, Henry eventually agreed to collaborate, but only under one condition. "As long as you don't stress her," he warned. "Whatever you need to learn, do it without disturbing her or the foals." Meanwhile, Ellie watched the scientists with curiosity as they carefully took measurements and recorded observations. "Dad," she said, her voice thoughtful, "can you believe it? All of this started with a difficult decision, and now Rosie is helping shape the future for other horses." Henry nodded, his eyes softening as he looked at the foals. "That's what I hope, my girl," he replied. "If there's one thing I've learned from all of this, it's never to underestimate the strength of life." The ranch's newfound fame brought challenges, but it also brought moments of profound satisfaction. Each day, letters and messages arrived from people inspired by Rosie's story, thanking them for sharing a tale of perseverance and unconditional love. "There's something about this story that gives me hope," one woman wrote in a message Ellie read aloud. "Rosie and her foals remind me that even in the toughest situations, there's always a way forward." One sunny afternoon, Aspen's personality began to shine through. The young foal galloped around the stable, her hooves pounding the ground and stirring up tiny clouds of dust. Her energy seemed boundless. Willow, on the other hand, watched her sister from the corner, her large, dark eyes filled with quiet curiosity. "Don't be so impatient, Aspen," Ellie murmured from the stable door, a soft laugh escaping her lips. "Your sister looks like she's studying your moves before she tries them herself." It was true. Willow was far more cautious. Though she wasn't lacking in bravery, she preferred to take her time, carefully analyzing each step. The contrast between the two foals became more evident with every passing day, sparking conversations among the ranch's workers. "Aspen's a whirlwind," Logan said one morning as he fed the horses. "And Willow, she's like a philosopher, always thinking." Henry nodded, a faint smile playing on his lips. "They're as different as day and night," he remarked, "but together they balance each other out, just like their mother." As for Rosie, she continued her role as a devoted mother. Though she still needed frequent breaks to recover from her challenging ordeal, she never stopped keeping a watchful eye on her foals. If Aspen ventured too far, a gentle nudge with her muzzle brought her back into line. Ellie marveled at these tender interactions. "It's amazing how she just knows exactly what they need," she said one afternoon, her hand gently stroking Rosie's neck. "I don't know how she does it, but she's always one step ahead." Henry approached with a bucket of fresh water, his expression thoughtful. "It's instinct," he said simply. "Something we humans can only try to understand." Ellie's bond with the foals grew stronger with each passing day. She spent hours playing with them, guiding them through small exercises that, while seemingly simple games, were designed to strengthen their muscles and teach them discipline. "Come on, Aspen, one more lap," Ellie called out as she ran alongside the colt, encouraging him to keep going. "Willow, your turn now. Don't let your brother beat you." With a graceful nod, Willow accepted the challenge, trotting with measured but determined steps. Though she wasn't as fast as Aspen, her perseverance was undeniable. "They trust you," Henry had remarked one day, observing from the shade of a nearby tree. "It's a special bond, Ellie. Something you can't force." Ellie smiled proudly. "Maybe, but I think there's something more to it. Their strength, their determination, it's inspiring." Aspen and Willow's fame began spreading beyond the ranch. More visitors arrived to see the colts, and social media became flooded with pictures and videos of their antics. One photo, in particular, went viral, a shot of Aspen leaping over a small obstacle while Willow watched him with what seemed like admiration. It garnered thousands of likes and comments. "These foals are a symbol of hope," someone wrote in a message Ellie read aloud during dinner. "They remind us that even in tough times, life always finds a way to push forward." But it wasn't all smooth sailing. The attention brought challenges too. Keeping the ranch peaceful became a priority, especially for Henry, who was adamant that Rosie and the foals not be stressed by the constant stream of visitors. "We can't let this get out of hand," he declared during a family meeting. "Rosie needs tranquility, and the foals are at a crucial stage of development." Ellie nodded, knowing her father was right. "Maybe we could set specific visiting hours," she suggested, "and restrict access to the stables. That way, their space stays protected." The idea was well received. Although a few visitors were unhappy with the new rules, most understood the importance of prioritizing the animals' well-being. The first warning sign came on a chilly morning when one of the ranch's older horses started showing unusual symptoms: constant sneezing, watery eyes, and lethargy. Henry and the vet were quick to investigate, and their worst fears were confirmed. An outbreak of equine influenza was spreading through the region. "This could get serious," the vet warned while examining the ranch's horses. "We need to act fast, vaccinate all the horses, and implement strict isolation protocols immediately." Henry called the ranch hands together. "Listen carefully," he said firmly. "We'll do whatever it takes to protect Rosie and the foals. No mistakes. If anyone notices anything unusual, notify me right away." Nearby, Ellie couldn't shake her unease as she stood with Aspen and Willow. "Dad, do you think they'll be okay?" she asked softly. "They'll be fine," Henry assured her, though his tone betrayed his worry. "But we have to be cautious." The following days were a whirlwind of activity. The horses were vaccinated, and Rosie, along with the foals, was moved to an isolated area away from the herd. Though necessary, the transition was difficult, especially for Aspen and Willow. "Aspen's used to running free," Ellie noted, watching her brother try to comfort the restless colt. "Now he seems more frustrated than ever." Willow, though calmer, also showed signs of discomfort, pacing circles in the makeshift corral. Rosie, ever watchful, did her best to keep her foals at ease, but even she seemed to sense the tension in the air. "It's temporary," Henry reassured Ellie one evening as he helped reinforce the corral's fencing. We just need to hold on a little longer until we're certain they're safe. Things took an unexpected turn one night when Ellie noticed Aspen wasn't eating. "Dad, something's wrong," she said urgently, gently stroking the colt's forehead. The vet was called immediately and confirmed Aspen had developed a high fever. "We need to act right away," the vet instructed, preparing medications and giving directions to the family. Everyone worked together to care for the colt. Ellie stayed by Aspen's side through the night, wrapping him in blankets and speaking to him softly. "You're going to be okay, little one," she whispered, trying to hold back her tears. The days that followed were fraught with anxiety. Henry barely slept, overseeing ranch duties during the day and checking on Aspen through the night. Meanwhile, Willow stayed close to her brother, as if sensing that her presence might comfort him. Finally, after what felt like an eternity of worry, Aspen began to recover. His fever broke, and bit by bit, his appetite and energy returned. "He's a fighter, just like his mother," Henry said as he watched the colt struggle to stand again. "And Willow is a fighter too," Ellie added, her voice steady but filled with admiration. She never left his side, not even for a moment. Eventually, the epidemic was brought under control, and life on the ranch returned to a semblance of normalcy. Yet, the experience left a lasting mark on everyone. "This reminded us of something important," Henry remarked during a quiet family dinner. "No matter how hard things get, when we work together, we can overcome anything." Ellie nodded in agreement. "And we can't let our guard down. What happened to Aspen could have been far worse if we hadn't been prepared." When the story of Aspen's recovery and Willow's resilience reached social media, the response was immediate and overwhelming. People from across the country began sharing the story of the ranch, emphasizing the family's unwavering commitment to protecting their animals. "They're an example of what it means to care for those who depend on us," one user wrote in a comment among the flood of messages on Ellie's posts. The ranch's fame grew to such an extent that Henry decided to chronicle the entire journey in a book, from the initial struggles with Rosie to the moments of joy brought by Aspen and Willow. "It's a way to honor everything we've been through," he explained to Ellie as he penned the opening lines, "and to inspire others." The book, titled The Miracle of Rosie, quickly became a bestseller, touching hearts nationwide with its message of hope and resilience. Meanwhile, Aspen and Willow continued to thrive, becoming living symbols of strength and love. They participated in events promoting animal welfare, captivating audiences with their boundless energy and charisma. Rosie, now older but ever wise, remained the heart of the ranch. Her calm, knowing gaze watched over her offspring as they shone in their unique ways, a silent testament to her sacrifices. The ranch, now renowned for its remarkable story, stayed true to its roots, a sanctuary of peace, love, and respect for nature. The tale of Rosie, Aspen, and Willow is profoundly moving, encapsulating the very essence of resilience, love, and the unbreakable bond between humans and animals. From the early challenges of Rosie's pregnancy to the miraculous births and the hurdles that followed, every chapter of their journey reflects the constant fight for life and the triumph over the impossible. Rosie embodies courage and the enduring power of maternal instinct, transcending every obstacle. Aspen and Willow, with their contrasting yet harmonious personalities, symbolize the hope and strength that bloom even in the darkest of times. Led by Henry and Ellie, the Ranch family illustrates the transformative power of unity, dedication, and a deep sense of responsibility to those in their care. Hey friends, wow, what a journey this story has taken us on. Even though the miracle of Rosie isn't a real story, its lessons feel so personal and true, don't they? It's not just about a horse or a family on a ranch, it's about resilience, love, and the power of working together to overcome life's toughest challenges. Think about it. Rosie's fight wasn't just her own. It was her family's determination, their belief in her, and the unshakable bond they shared that made the impossible possible. That, my friends, is what life is all about. Supporting one another through thick and thin, even when the odds seem stacked against us. And those foals, Aspen and Willow, they're such beautiful metaphors, don't you think? Aspen reminds us of the energy to push forward, while Willow teaches us the quiet strength of patience and observation. Together, they balance each other, just like the people in our lives balance us. This story is fictional, yes, but the emotions it stirs are real. It reminds us to cherish the bonds we have with our family, our friends, and even the animals that trust us with their care. Life is precious, fragile, and full of miracles waiting to unfold. Now, I'd love to hear from you. What did this story mean to you? Did it remind you of a time when you faced a challenge and came out stronger? Share your thoughts in the comments below. I'd love to keep this conversation going. And hey, if this story touched your heart, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Let's spread a little hope and inspiration together. Until next time, take care and stay amazing.